Hello everyone and welcome back to another deck profile video. Today it is I, Nova, doing this solo as once again Master Feature's out of town and Dayman is still out of town. So this is gonna be like version 1.0 of Hanzo. I know we've released a Hanzo deck in the past, however this deck is a little bit different. So I actually started on the wrong side here. We're gonna start off with Hanzo eating a nice little juicy, what looks like I want to say one of those Japanese waffles, and it just looks good. I can just imagine just a little bit of miso paste in there. Anyways, Hanzo, Divinity of 10. His judgment cost is 2 green, 2 colorless. Energize green. Flip over. Hanzo, Chief of the Kouga, 1000, J Resonator. Enter, flip a revealed rune from your rune area. So essentially, flip a revealed rune from your rune area. So essentially, if you have, this is a bad example, but anyways, if you have a rune like this that's already flipped, just flip it back down and you can play it again. So with the runes in mind, we're actually gonna go over the runes right off the bat. However, this time around, it's gonna be a little bit different for runes because I wanna present you guys with a little bit of the rules because I made the mistake, and I made a mistake without even thinking about it because I already knew the rules. Like, mind you, I'm not the best person with rules, but I already knew some of the rules and I still made the mistake by accident. So, because we are playing Hanzo and he is a green ruler, you can only have green type runes in your rune area with the exception of if they are chant runes. So for example, the mistake I made without even thinking about it is I threw this in there, and you guys might see it on Fight Me Friday where I face Master Feature and I actually have this rune in there. That deck is completely illegal. While I won the game, technically I lost it because of the fact that cannot have a rune right here, a blue rune. So just so you guys are aware. And I'm gonna go through and point out the things. The other thing is you can only ever have one master rune in your deck, in your rune deck is what I mean. So first up for runes, we have Sealing Scroll, Divinity of 2, cost of 0. It is a master rune and it is green. So it complies with the rules so far, and then I can only have one master rune. Play this card only if your ruler is Hanzo or Hanzo the Chief of the Kouga. Quick cast, cancel target rune spell. Next up, we have Whirlwind Technique, cost of 2 divinity, cost of 1 green mana, quick cast. Target J Resonator gains barrier until the end of the turn. And then we have a mixture. So here's what we have. Youkai Festival, which is 2 green and X. Divinity cost of 3. It is a chant rune and it is still a green rune. You may pay 1 green less to play this card from a rune area. So essentially we're going to be paying only 1, and you'll see essentially we're always only going to be playing 2 to play this rune. 1 green and 1 colorless. Search your deck for up to 2 Youkai with total cost of X or less and put them into your field. Then shuffle your deck. Really love this card, and this deck is actually built around this card, and it's built around counters. So you guys, like, drop a comment below if you're at this point you kind of know what deck's gonna be building about, but if not, you will definitely be getting an idea with the next card. Next up, for a cost of, it costs 3, but we're gonna be always paying it for 2, is Invitation. It is a blue rune, and because it is a chant rune, we can actually throw it into the rune deck. You may pay 1 colorless less to play a card from your rune area. Search your deck for a card and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. Awesome search card for a cost of only 2 blue. And then afterwards we have Diverse Evolution. This last rune, I'm actually looking for suggestions of what I can replace it with, because there's essentially only 2 types of resonator types in this deck. So what does this card do? Cost of 2 blue, 1 colorless, Divinity 2. You may pay 1 less to play this card from a rune area. Target up to X resonators you control, where X is the number of different races among them resonators you control. Put a 100-100 counter on the first, then repeat the process for each target past the first. So depending on the number of races you have, you essentially keep putting on target but because I only have 2 types of resonators, like 2 different races, I can only ever target up to two resonators. So this card, if you guys have suggestions of something I can replace it with, by all means, please feel free to comment below. Now, in terms of resonators, I'm going to be going through the cheapest first and then increasing in cost, followed by, lastly, by additions and chant. So kind of give you a little background to this deck is I really wanted to keep building Hanzo because I actually had a lot of fun with the green deck. Ever since the new set released, the support for green cards in blue and a little bit of darkness, but blue and green by far stood out the most to me. And because of that, I said, you know what, let's go ahead and start building something a little bit fun. So before I forget, don't make the Nova mistake of putting this into your main rune deck because you can't. Blue, green, that's how you should know. Always check. Blue, green, nope, can't, has to go out. It has to match with your ruler unless it is a chant rune like this one. Because this is a chant rune, it does not have to color match. Anyways, moving on. We have, where is it? Okay, moving on, we have green runes. For green runes, we have 4 Magic Stone of Tranquility. These 2 regular wind stones are actually proxies for this because I did not have enough of these ones. So, tap, produce 1 green, or recover target ninja. Play this ability only during your end phase. Recovered ninja that we have in this deck is only Hanzo. So, if we flip Hanzo over on his J ruler side, he is actually a ninja. So we can swing with him and recover him at the end of the turn. Or tap him to produce a mana stone, and then at the end of the stone we can actually tap 1. So essentially, the mana stone we produced we put back in order to tap him at the end of the turn. 4 of those, followed by 4 Magic Stone of Dramaturgy. I cannot pronounce that. We'll just go with a shiny rupee from Zelda. So we have 4 shiny rupees. What does these mana stones do? The rupees produce 1 blue, obviously, or put a 100/100 counter on a target machine that was put into the field this turn. This should give away what's going on with the deck. So 4 of these. And then lastly, we have 2 basic water stones. So majority of this deck, as you can tell, is going to be heavily weighted towards water resonators. However, first off, what I'm going to be going with is my favorite combo right now, which is we have 4 Six Jizo Statues. These guys are 1 cost, 600/600, and these guys work off 100/100 counters. They are Youkai, and let me read you actually what the card does. This card cannot attack or block unless there are 6 or more 100/100 counters on it. At the end of the turn, put a 100/100 counter on this card, and that happens every single turn. So during my turn and during my opponent's turn, I put a 100/100 counter at the end of the turn. And the only way your opponent's going to be able to get rid of this card is if they have pure destroy cards, since they cannot attack them. If they have pure destroy cards. I guess the other reason is if they had precision, but I haven't actually seen that much precision on the new decks. But I don't think precision would work because this card cannot defend, attack, or block. So if you try to precision into it, I don't think it would work simply because it cannot block. So unless there are some rules, and guys, please correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, if there's a rule where they can precision and just kill this guy without it fighting back, then that might be something, but not right now. Now, the way that reason why I have 4 of these cards is because I want to keep building counters, as this card synergizes extremely well with Lancelot. Also, we have Youkai festivals. For a cost of 2, we're always able to look for 2 of these from our decks and put them onto the field right away, which is extremely nice. Kind of what the whole deck revolves around. And might as well do it now. I was going to do it in increasing order, but I'll show you guys as to why Lancelot synergizes so well. So we have 4 Lancelots. I'm going to quickly take one off camera just to read it. It is a cost of 1 blue, 2 colorless, 600/600 resonator. machine type resonator. Enter, put a 100-100 counter on each machine you control. Remove 3 100-100 counters from a resonator you control, destroy target resonator. So, what does that mean? Remove 3 counters from any resonator, keyword here, remove counters from a resonator. So, okay, even remove them from the Jizo statues. This whole deck is actually built around counters, and because of that, Lancelot is there for controlling your field. Not the field, but controlling the field in general. Your opponent's field is what I mean. Second ability, remove total of 10 counters from any number of resonators you control. J resonators your opponent controls lose all abilities until the end of the turn. Destroy all resonators your opponent controls. So, let's say my I don't know, it's a bad idea, but let's say Hanzo for some reason had like Imperishable or something, and my opponent had Hanzo with Imperishable. If I remove 10 counters from any number of resonators, my opponent would actually lose Imperishable, which would be fantastic. Like, the whole reason why we run with so many of these Jizo statues is to be able to have as many counters as possible. Like, we want to have access to a lot of counters with Lancelot. And if need be, if our opponent flips early, we can actually kill it. For example would be Ayu, which I don't have, and Scarlet I think has Imperishable as well. Like, that would be 2 examples off the top of my head that I'm pretty sure have Imperishable. I know for a fact Scarlet does, but I'm not quite sure by Ayu yet. Mind you, like, we have one of the members in the play group that has Ayu, just have not played against it nearly enough in order to remember all of its abilities. So comment below if Ayu does have Imperishable. So Jizo and Lancelot work really well together. The other thing I'm going to mention is, like, I mean, the Lancelot, oh, the full art just looks so good. I'm kind of hiding a little bit, but I have one that's not full art, and it really triggers me. Anyways, 4 Lancelots. Next up, we have 2 Laurites. Laurite 7, okay, I'm just gonna go Laurite. 1 green, 100-200 resonator. Really don't care about him as a resonator. What we do care about is his ability. It is a quick cast resonator. When this card enters the field, cancel target activate or automatic ability your opponent controls, which is extremely good because this works off not only resonators, but any ability, automatic ability or activate ability my opponent controls. So if it's an automatic ability off, for example, Hanzo flipping, so let's say I flip Hanzo, I can actually, let's say my opponent flips over Hanzo, I can actually Laurite Hanzo's entry ability because it is an automatic ability. His entry ability is automatic, which is fantastic. So one of the reasons why I love these guys, you can even bump these up to 4, but we'll go over things that can be changed towards the end of the video. Next up, following that, we have what I consider to be the big carry of this deck. Lancelot is nice. He does have a lot of counters. He does have a lot of abilities to control your opponent's field, but what I really feel like it carries a lot of weight is Viviane, the Mechanical Fairy. We have 4 of these cards. Viviane is a 1-cost resonator, 300-300. Flying, it is a machine fairy. So I guess, you know what? I guess we do have, I was lying about the diverse. We do have quite a different numbers of resonators, because we have a machine fairy, we have a Youkai, and we have an elf. So I guess technically we do have a few numbers. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 types. Never mind. So I can always target up to 4 with diverse evolution, now that I actually look at it closer. Anyways, excuse me, getting sidetracked here. Viviane, whenever another machine enters the field under your control, put a 100-100 counter on this card. So whenever I play another machine resonator, this card gets 100-100. Remove 2 100-100 counters from this card, rest target resonator. Now, the one thing I'm going to point out right here is not only is this card extremely beautiful, like in full art, look at the difference, like big difference, but a key note to remember here when playing this card is if you declare your attack first, so let's say I'm fighting Laurite right here and I declare my attack, and they declare Laurite as a blocker, I cannot remove 2 counters in order to rest. The act of actually blocking with a resonator actually rests it. So with that in mind, if they only had Laurite on the field and I only had Viviane, first thing I would need to do is actually have 2 counters, remove those 2 counters and say I'm going to rest Laurite, and then I can swing. If I try to do it the other way, I cannot physically remove those counters because the act of blocking, I reiterate, because I've made the mistake in the past and I've been corrected, the act of blocking actually rests the resonator. So for our newer audience out there, just please keep that in mind. Learn from my mistakes. Next up, for more counters, we have 4 Doughnut Drones. 1 cost resonator, 200, 200. Really don't care about the attack and defense, but we can. The best ability of this card is its banish ability. Banish this card, put 4 100 counters on the target machine resonator, place this ability only during your turn. So as soon as I play Doughnut Drone, I can banish this card and add 4. Now, the only question I would have for members who have been playing, like our viewers who've been playing this game for a while, is can I banish Doughnut Drone the turn I play it? I feel like yes, and I feel like when I was playing Massive Fiji, I was doing it, but I'm not sure if it's a 100% legal move. So please comment below and let me know if this is actually a legal move to be able to play Doughnut Drone and then immediately banish it to give one of my machines a 4/4 counter. So 4 of these just for counters. And then we have an absolutely beautiful card, which once again synergizes well with some others. We have 4 of these in beautiful full art right here. Guinevere, the Mobility Queen, 0-200 resonator, 1 cost. It is a human machine wanderer. Oh my god. Just more like human machine wanderer. I guess we have even more. Okay, Diverse Evolution is definitely staying in my room deck, guys. I'm sorry. But we have machine, Viviane, which is a machine elf, so that's machine, fairy, elf, and then we have Youkai, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I guess we have quite a lot of races we control, wow. Okay, Guinevere, the Mobility Queen. Put 2 100 counters on the target machine when you play this card, so upon entering. Or banish a machine, put 2 100 counters on this card. The one thing I will point out is you cannot perform this ability and her ability to banish something at the same. If I have both Mobility Queen and I have a Doughnut Drone, I cannot say I'm going to trigger Guinevere's ability to banish this guy to add 2 counters. The reason why is because the way spells work in this game is it's kind of like a sandwich. So the best way I can say is her abilities goes first, and then I have to banish this card. The process of banishing this card, I cannot play the ability because it hits the grave instantly. So it's kind of, picture her as a sandwich. That's the best way I can describe it. Like I can't banish this guy because he hits the grave instantly. The way spells work in this game is, imagine these were 2 different spells. What I would say is I would use this first spell and then I would do the second spell. Now the way you read spells is from top to bottom. So this spell goes off first and then the other spell. But because the keyword in here being banish, because we're banishing something, the act of actually banishing it sends it to the graveyard immediately. So you cannot use both abilities combined. You can only do one or the other. Just keep that in mind. Now, her tap ability is remove a total of 12 100 counters from any number of machine resonators. This card actually specifies machines. Search your deck for a card named Super Mobile Fortress Camelot and put it into the field. Now, what is Super Mobile Fortress, you may ask? Let me point it out here. Give me 2 seconds, because it really did not have everything organized. And it really didn't have everything organized. So, Super Mobile Fortress Camelot. It is a 6-cost resonator, 2 blue, 4 colorless, 1200. It is a machine with flying. Its entry ability, search. Okay, return up to 2 target resonators your opponent controls to their owner's hands. If you control a card named Guinevere, the Mobility Queen, destroy those resonators instead. Ideally, you only want to have 1 of these in your deck. The reason I'm running 2 is in the odd chance I actually draw this card. I don't want to play it for full cost, let's be honest. Like, I can, I really don't. Ideally, I want to use counters in order to summon this guy in, and it's more, once again, it's more field control. However, like by the time you have that many counters, I feel like Lancelot is going to be carrying a lot more weights, which is why you can actually knock this card down to 1 instead of 2 and add in another, for example, another Laurite. So just something to keep in mind. Next up, we have 2 precision guided, okay, I gotta read this. Precision guided Munition Skybeat. I love the card, the full art version of this card, fantastic. Cost 2 blue and 1 colorless, 800 machine resonator with flying. Machines you control with a 100 counter on them gain flying. So as soon as something has a counter on it, one of my machines, they gain flying automatically. One of the things you can substitute, I'm going to point it out right now, this card, you can actually substitute it for something like Lightning Cave. Because the reason being is, it's actually cheaper for me to be able to play Lightning Cave than to be able to play this for a 3 cost. Like, I understand it's a resonator, but it actually makes more sense. If I know I'm fighting decks that are not blue, I can easily substitute in like 2 Lightning Caves because it's a 1 cost, and all non-water resonators cannot gain swiftness or flying, which I feel like it's a better deal for me to play this over, I mean, in terms of cost alone, much better to play Lightning Cave and run 2 of those, because the only reason I would run 2 is because I can search them out with invitation. So that would be an option for you guys. Like, this right here was options. Next, we have Gawain, the Swift Knight. Cost of 2 blue, 1 colorless, 800 resonator. This card gains swiftness as long as there is a 100 counter on it. I love this card. I only run 2 of it because I really feel like I don't need to have more than 2. The idea is not for me to swing to win. The idea in this deck is more to control my opponent's field and then slowly chip away at health. This guy, he can't be extremely nice, but you can substitute him for other cards, and I'll point out more towards the end. Okay, additions, and then I'll go through the spells. For additions, we have 2, the Knight's Castle in the Sky round. 1 blue, 1 colorless is an addition, machine addition. Machines you control gain 100. It is not a counter, it's just 100 straight attack and defense. Whenever a machine resonator enters the field under your control, put a 100 counter on it. So essentially this is a free counter. So if I have the addition out before I actually play Gawain, as soon as I play Gawain, he comes in with the 100 counter plus the 100 buff, so he immediately swings for 1000 damage, which is fantastic. Again, the reason I only run 2 of these is simply for the fact that I can invitation the card out. Okay, next we have 4 Skyfall, and I love the full art of this card, just fantastic here. 1 blue. This card gains quick cast as long as it's in your hand and you control a machine resonator. Controlling a machine resonator means I have to have it on the field under my control. It cannot be in my deck, and it cannot, because I've made that mistake a lot until it was pointed out to me, because the way the rules read is you control all cards in your deck. However, there's another rule which trumps that, which what it states is, if a card does not reference where the card is, if it's located, and for example, if it's located in your RuneDeck, your side deck, your graveyard, or whatever, if a card does not reference exactly where that card is located, then it always references the field. So, because this card does not make reference to it, and it just says as long as you control, that control can only come from you having a resonator into the field. Anyways, this card's ability, return target resonator to its owner's hand. And because it's only a cost of 1, this is fantastic. You can return Belial, you can return big guys. And speaking of Belial, so anyways, 4 Skyfall, but speaking of Belial, we have 2 Arondight, the Nitrogen Blade, which cancels target automatic ability of a resonator. If this card was awakened, destroy that resonator. So awakening, you'd have to pay for it 4. Ideally, I'm always gonna pay 1. So speaking of Belial, if the opponent drops in Belial and the Nitrogen Blade that guy. Also, what I potentially could do is Laurite it as well, because it targets an automatic ability of my opponent controls, which Belial is an automatic ability and my opponent controls it. We can also Keez call it, and I have 2 Keez call. Quick cast, cancel target automatic ability of a resonator, then draw a card. I like this card a lot because it simply draws me a card. And if you guys want, you can actually switch in 2 Keez and have 4 Keez instead of Trident Blades, which would be quite nice. Lastly, the last 2 cards, we have 2 table flips. And I'm going to point out right now, this is a Master Rune. It is a Chant Master Rune, so I cannot have this card into my main rune deck because we already have a Master Rune in there. So we have 2 table flips. Costs 1 green when we're controlling Hanzo. Choose 1. If target resonator would deal damage this turn, this card deals 800 damage to that resonator instead. Sorry, let me rephrase that. If target resonator would deal damage this turn, this card deals 800 damage to that resonator instead. If target chance spell will deal damage this turn, wait, this card has been rated. If target chance spell would deal single target, like if 1 instance of the spells, I don't know exactly how it's rated, but for something like Sandstorm, where it would do damage like 6 instances, if your opponent has had 6 resonators, it would do 6 instances of that Sandstorm damage. What it means is single spell only. So, okay, let me try reading that again. If single target chance spell would deal damage this turn, this card deals 500 damage to your opponent instead. The reason why they changed the wording on this card is because with something like Sandstorm, and if your opponent had, let's say, 5 resonators out, if I would play Sandstorm for 0, do 200 damage to each resonator, and I would play table flip on top. I'm kind of questioning it right now, but anyways, the way it worked is because Sandstorm does damage to 5 targets, and you could actually cancel the table flip, you could actually do 2,500 damage to your opponent's face. So that's kind of why they changed it. I know it's kind of wacky, really wacky, but yeah. So like I mentioned, you could easily substitute in Lightning Cave for Skybeat, 2 Skybeat. You could also substitute in the Nitrogen Blade for more Keezes. You can actually take out, for example, I can even take out 1 Super Mobile Fortress for Lancelot, or I can take it out for another table flip. The other thing I may want to do, like things that you can go down, drop down to give you ideas, is you can drop down to 3 Lancelots and maybe increase another table flip, or add in another Keez or another Nitrogen Blade, or other ideas that you can drop, because you can play around with this as you like fit. The other options you can have is you can actually play Runes Submerged Beneath the Misty Spring. It is a 1-cost addition. Whenever you play a water resonator, put a miss counter on this card. Remove 2 miss counters from this card. Target resonator gains barrier chant until the end of the turn. If you're facing, for example, a green deck, you know they're going to have a lot of target spells. I love this card simply because you can keep building miss counters as you're playing the water resonators, because we have a lot of cheap water resonators. We have 4, 8, 12 cheap water resonators, because we have potentially 12 cheap water resonators, and we can actually keep building miss counters quite quickly. So this is an option for side deck. I'm actually going to put it here. And the last card, this is more of a food for thought card. Because we actually play quite a lot of cheap resonators, we can actually use Liz, Sealed God of the Island. It is a 1,500 resonator. It does cost 2 green and 6 colorless. However, we can reduce the cost of the colorless. You may pay 1 less for each resonator you control. Other resonators you control gain barrier. So it kind of works like Ray the Black Owl for darkness, and because other resonators gain barrier, it's a tough call. Like, if you're really worried about, you can play both of these cards. If you're really worried about target chance spells, you can go down to 3 Doughnut Drones, you can go down to 3 Vivianes, you can go down to 3 Mobility Queens, you can go down 4, so you can essentially pump this up to maybe 2 or 3 of these cards, maybe 2 or 3 of the Mists. So there's a lot of flexibility because I threw in so many cards that actually have 4 copies of each of them. For example, Viviane, Doughnut Drone, Lancelot, Mobility Queen. Because of those cards, you can actually drop down to 1 of each and then pump in something else. So this card might be a good idea. Anyways, let's go over its last ability. If you have 3 runes revealed, enter. Put target non-magic stone, non-resonated card from your graveyard into your hand. So essentially you pick up each hand. So can be nice, can be extremely nice if you have a lot of chance that you're gonna want to play, but this was more of a suggestion from somebody within the community, and they said, give that up, give it a shot. I have not actually put it into my deck, but it was just a suggestion. And like, if you really look at it, I don't have that many sideboard cards. It's just 2 keys. Maybe I'm gonna throw in maybe 3 of these. So that's already 5, let's say 5 of those. 2 mists, maybe throw in another one. 2 lightning caves. I would never want to have more than 2 lightning caves because of invitation. Maybe the same with the mist edition. Because of invitation, yeah, I really feel like I don't. Oh, the other one I would want to throw in there is maybe another 2 nitrogen blades. So yeah, you can easily start adding up towards the 15 cards you want to have in your sideboard. So yeah, this is kind of the outline for the Hanzo machines. If, as always, if you guys have suggestions or tactics I could play because I really haven't gone over tactics that much. The only tactic I really went over is the fact that you can use Lancelot with Youkai, but I have a few tactics. Yeah. It's pretty basic. I haven't played machines that much, so I feel like the more I'm going to be playing this deck, the more and more I'm going to be coming up with tactics. If you guys really want to help with that and you have ideas about tactics I could play or resonators I can switch out, please let me know and feel free to comment below. Aside from that, I hope you guys enjoyed this deck profile, and I will be seeing you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.